My BF wanted a PS5, but I got him a telescope. He was furious and it backfired horribly. 6 months later, our lives changed in ways we never expected. I'm Nancy, 24F, and my boyfriend is Terry, 27M. We have been dating for 3 years, and last week it was his birthday. Terry and I met at a mutual friend's barbecue. Actually, Terry was that guy charming the crowd with jokes he just made up and stories that could make anyone laugh. His warm personality and infectious smile were what attracted me to him in the first place. We clicked that afternoon, going on for hours about everything from favorite books to ideal plans for the future. We had only just started dating when I discovered that Terry was a hardcore gamer. He had been playing video games ever since his childhood. His first was a Nintendo 64. For him, more than just a hobby, gaming was a way to let oneself free after a long day at work or pop open his laptop to hang out with his buddies online. Well, I was never much of a gamer. I tried a couple of times, but I always felt awkward with the controller. There was not much dexterity to keep up with all the action on screen, which happened so fast. First, Terry's gaming did not bother me at all. It seemed kind of nice that he flipped out if there was a new release or, better, that he had finally wagered some boss who was really a pain. But as our relationship progressed, I got to feeling like his PlayStation was competition for attention. There have been so many nights when we would put on a movie to watch together, and it was like he didn't even realize the hour because he was caught up in some game. Or there were weekends that I wanted to go out and be social, but he was caught in the middle of a multiplayer match that he couldn't sit down on. It was one of those continual things we had small arguments over during the years. I used to get irritated at that, and say to him that he doesn't care about me as much as he cares about his games. He'd get defensive and say I was trying to control how he spent his free time. But we always managed to work it out, although it remained a kind of sore spot in our relationship. It was maybe about a month ago when Terry started giving off hints that he really wanted the new PlayStation 5 for his birthday. He already has a working PlayStation 4, but he kept saying how marvelous the graphics of the new one were and how much he wanted to play those latest games. He would show me the videos comparing graphics and loading times, getting more and more excited with each demonstration. To be frank, my heart sank a little every time he brought it up. All I thought about was that a whole new, more powerful console would mean even more time spent on video gaming. I could see myself spending even more lonely evenings on the sofa as Terry got lost in whatever virtual world he was exploring. But I didn't want to rain on his parade, more so I nodded and smiled away, my mind racing to think of a plan B, another gift, anything. Then, 2 weeks before his birthday, we were watching a space documentary, one of those days when we would actually have agreed on something to watch together. The documentary was on the possibility of life on other planets and covered some great visuals depicting far-off galaxies and nebulae. Terry was totally fascinated. He would pause the show and look up facts on his phone, telling me all sorts of cool facts about stars and planets. Did you know there is a planet where it rains diamonds? Or that there exists a huge cloud of alcohol floating in space? He was rattling off these facts with the same kind of enthusiasm he usually saved when telling me about his latest gaming achievements. I had never seen him like this, so animated about something outside of gaming. He just seemed to take me back to the days when we first started dating, staying up all night, and talking about every little thing under the sun. Our mutual curiosity about the world brought us closer to each other. For the first time in a while, it felt like we shared something special, learned and wondered together. That made me think. Get him a really good telescope instead of the PS5. It would be a great investment for this newfound interest and maybe we'll use it a lot. Actually, it turned out more expensive than the PS5, okay by me. It sounded like it was going to be pretty special. For a straight 2 weeks, I read a lot about different types of telescopes. I needed to get something good for beginners but with as many features as possible for growing, learning, and expanding our knowledge. I had even attended a short online course about stargazing to be able to explain how to use it. I could imagine us on level summer evenings up on the roof of the building where we lived. In a moment we would share the telescope and struggle to find meaning in the great vistas of the universe. Terry was so excited when, on his birthday, I handed over the big wrapped box. Shaking it, he was suggesting all the time, "Is it the PS5? But, no, the box is too big. Maybe it's the PS5 and a lot of games?" So happy, he was really like a little kid on Christmas morning. But with the next blow, as soon as he ripped off the wrapping and saw that it was the telescope, his face kind of did this thing that looked like it had fallen in that split of time. He tried to cover up but, oh sure, I could see that he was disappointed. In his eyes there was disappointment, first of a thrill, then of confusion, followed by something that sounded exactly like frustration. He thanked me but immediately turned around and asked if I had gotten a PS5 for him. I told him that I had not gotten him the present he wanted and explained why. He was very upset, and said he was very clear about what he wanted, and that I had completely turned it down, going on even to say that I was trying to change his interests and hobbies. I had said that maybe it was something new and interesting that we could do together, to which he became even more annoyed. He then pointed out that if I had to do something with him, we could play the PS5. He then went on to say how he had been saving up for that telescope himself and was planning to buy it next month anyway. The rest of the day was really tense. Terry barely touched the telescope and just spent most of the time on his phone, most likely looking at PS5 games he couldn't play. We had family dinner, and when asked what he got for Christmas, he just briefly mentioned the telescope. His mother, knowing about the subtle hints, gave me a curious look, but I just slightly shook my head. I didn't want to elaborate on that in front of everyone. The telescope now rests in the corner of our living room, untouched a week later. Terry hasn't said a single thing about it but, in fact, seems to consciously not even cast a look at it. He's been off with me all this week, answering me monosyllabically when I try to chat with him and sitting on his PS4 for even longer than usual. As a matter of fact, yesterday I caught him looking at PS5s online, sighing heavily before closing the tab whenever he noticed me watching. I'm gutted. I thought I was being really nice and encouraging a new interest, but now I think I've wrecked his birthday. And at the same time, I'm hurt that he can't appreciate the thought I put into the gift. So much time to find and prepare for something I could share with him that didn't involve two people looking at two different screens. In a way, I feel like I should just take the telescope back and get him the PS5 after all, but a part of me feels that would be giving into his sulking. And I still find it hard to be satisfied that he's going to be gaming more than he already is. I'm kind of worried that if I do that now, it sets the precedent to get his way by giving me the cold shoulder. All I could think of was the night we watched the space documentary together. Terry was so animated, so interested in everything about the world around us and beyond. That's the Terry I had fallen for, the one that was excited to learn something new and share it with me. I was thinking the telescope might bring that out more. Was I wrong to try? So Reddit, Ida for buying my BF a telescope he wants but not a gaming console which he desires? Did I overstep by trying to instill in him that he should be into new hobbies too, or was that the right forward step towards us being able to share our new hobbies? How do I fix this situation without completely disregarding my own feelings about his gaming habits? Update 1. Hey all, thanks for the responses. I've been through them all, and I must say that this thread was quite an eye-opener. I now realize that I indeed was the asshole in this situation. I never should have ignored Terry's clear wishes for his own birthday gift. In the course of my learning from your remarks, I painfully decided that I would have an honest conversation with Terry. It's not easy, we've all been walking on eggshells around each other for the past week. I was so nerve-wracked about his reaction because I knew we needed to clear the air. I started off by apologizing for not really listening to what he wanted and for trying to impose my own ideas on his hobby. I told him I was concerned with how much time he actually spent gaming, but I did notice that it wasn't really fair to him if I tried to change that with a birthday gift. I told him exactly how I felt like we were slowly drifting, him spending more than enough time gaming, and me left out of it all. Terry was silent for what seemed like hours after I had spoken. Surprisingly, he apologized as well. He told me it was true, he could have handled that disappointment much better, and he was sorry for sulking. He finally admitted he had felt guilty for how long he allowed himself to spend playing games but hadn't known how to cut back without feeling like he was sacrificing a part of himself. We had spent so much time discussing hobbies and how we could share them with one another that it had dawned on him that I felt he hadn't been so interested in gaming, so he was very hyped about the possibility of playing PS5 with me. He probably thought that we both could now share his number one hobby together. Until she told me how I always made her feel that it was a part of him she was trying to reject, I never realized what I was doing every time I tried getting him to game less. Terry, for his part, did confess some interest in the telescope, but just went on to comment that there was so much one could take in that he did not know where to start from, or rather, on whom to start questioning. We'll give it a shot together this weekend. Now, during the PS5, I offered to take the telescope back and receive the PS5 in its place, only to surprise Terry. He said he'd thought about it and that he wants a PS5, but he does not want to let go of the telescope either. He suggested, therefore, we keep the telescope and that he'll save and get the PS5 himself. This really touched me. Before long, I also had the idea of contributing something toward the fund for the PS5. Not that it would entirely amount to the money, but at least a lot of it, and it would make him have it a bit earlier. Terry really liked this idea. We also figured out some plans to even out our time. That was willing to try and decrease his gaming a bit, especially when both of us were home, and I was going to show more interest in the games he was playing. He was going to teach me how to play his favorite games, starting with the less intense that I might actually enjoy. In return, he's agreed to join me in a few of my hobbies, including using the telescope. We actually got to using the telescope last night for the first time to stargaze. It was quite awkward at first because we couldn't focus and it took us like 20 minutes just to locate a single star. However, once we began to understand its use, the way it worked was indeed quite amazing. We even saw the moon and its craters very clearly, in a way that we never had before. Terry was really into it, and he even downloaded an application that would help us identify what we were seeing. "Or that was one good gift to get me," Terry said as we packed up the telescope. I had it in my head that I wanted a PS5 and forgot how much fun it is to try something new. Not much, but that meant the world to me. It was as though we were back on the same team. I guess I learned a lesson from this whole thing. It's important to listen to and have respect for the interests of a partner, which necessarily differ from my own. Trying to change a person, especially through a present, does not ever work magic with anyone. So the key really lies in communication. And I am so relieved that we worked around this together. And we are learning to live with it. Terry's gaming takes up his life again, but I am adapting. Both of us have been total rookies at astronomy. It feels, then, like something has changed. We are trying to understand and engage with the other's interests, which are somehow bringing us closer to each other. Thank you, Reddit, for all your insights. You are those who really made me realize where I made a mistake and how to make it right. Here's to clearer skies for us in the future, both in our relationship and in stargazing. Update 2. It's been about a month since that last comment, and I wanted to let you all know how it went. First of all, Terry and I have been using the telescope quite frequently, and it is the most fun pastime. We go up to any nearby hilltop on any clear night. Terry is so much into astrophotography now. Just now, he signed up for some forum on the net for amateur astronomers. That is how excited he is and where he shares his new photos. We were both pretty clueless at first when we went out. Half the night we might be just looking for something interesting to look at. But Terry, being the kind of techie guy he is, found some outstanding apps for you to identify celestial objects. He's been like a kid in a candy store, excitedly pointing out different stars and planets. And on that one special day, we could see the rings of Saturn. Terry was so excited that he literally shouted, waking up the couple picnicking several yards away. Well, we started talking with them, ended up showing them Saturn through our telescope, and generally enjoyed the cool moment of sharing our new hobby with others. As for the PS5, Terry managed to get one 2 weeks ago, thanks to the money I sent him and his savings, and even for a really good deal online. He was ecstatic about it, and I have to admit, the graphics are quite amazing. Here's the funny part, Terry has been spending his free time equally on gaming and stargazing. He says the telescope has given him a new appreciation for taking breaks from screens and actually enjoying the real world. Actually, we've even started planning a camping trip to a dark sky reserve for better stargazing. On the gaming front, Terry's been making an effort to include me more. He found a couple of co-op games that are more my speed than his, and we've been playing a couple of times a week. So it's been enjoyable, and I see why he likes it so much. I didn't turn into such a game head, but I do appreciate it better now. We were playing some cooking game last week and ended up laughing so hard that we actually paused the game. We have also worked on doing a better job of balancing our time in general. We've implemented the device-free dinner rule, just putting every device away and talking. It's been good for our communication, and many interesting conversations have taken place. Last night, after dinner, we ended up talking about the possibility of alien life for over an hour. One surprising byproduct of the whole thing is that our friends have also become part of it. We've even had a couple of game and gaze nights in which we start out playing video games for a while, then go outside and look into the telescope. It's become another unique way for us to hang out with people and share our interest in things. Terry's best friend used to come around for an evening of video games, but of late, he has somehow become interested in stargazing. He even talked about buying a telescope. Truly, watching our social life unfold, moving beyond just gaming, is quite amazing. Looking back, I realized that my initial impulses had the potential to destroy our relationship. But, thankfully, we turned it into the opportunity to blossom and learn about each other. We're both learning how to appreciate and be interested in each other's interests, and it has brought us closer to each other. Still, there are times that I worry he is playing too much, or he easily gets irritated because I am not as interested as he is. In any case, we communicate so much better now, and we are both making attempts to reach a balance that is suitable for us. Thank you again for all the advice, Reddit. It really helped us to navigate the situation and come out a lot stronger in the end. Update 3. Hello again, Reddit. Well, it's been about 6 months since the whole telescope versus PS5 debacle, and I figured I would give you one last update on how things have turned out. Terry and I really are on top of the world. Our shared love of astronomy really took off. We've just recently upgraded our telescope and even joined a local astronomy club. We try to make it out to as many of their monthly star parties as possible, and it's a fantastic way to meet new people and learn more about space. Terry's astrophotography has just gotten way better. One of his shots of the Orion Nebula even got featured in a magazine. As far as gaming goes, it has a nice place in our lives now. Terry still loves his PS5, but it isn't all-consuming anymore. We tend to have a standing game night once a week where we play co-op games together. I'm really into puzzle and strategy type games now, so that's what we've been playing. Better communication, great leisure times, and mutual support are a few positive effects of this balance struck not only in our interests but also with each in his or her own way. She even took an interest in my hobby of gardening, and I set up a small greenhouse on the balcony. Not until last month did we finally make this camping trip to a dark sky reserve that had been on the books for some time. The experience was just amazing. We spent our days on hikes, exploring nature, and our nights gazing at the stars. Terry was able to take some truly brilliant pictures of the Milky Way. This was the trip where we realized the extent of the distance we had traveled since the birthday fiasco. After all these many nights, sitting by the campfire after a prolonged session of stargazing, one night Terry turned to me and said, "You know, I'm glad you got me that telescope. If you had just gotten me the PS5, we might never have discovered this whole new world together." That only tiny moment meant so much to me. That's not to say everything is rosy. We still have our differences, and there are times when I get to think Terry is spending too much time gaming. But now, we have the ability and the ways to work out the differences, together. Last time, though, we had gotten into a little disagreement where Terry spent a full Saturday behind the screen, and we had previously arranged to get to some local science museum. Talking things out instead of letting them fester, Terry told me he'd just lost track of time. I confess that sometimes, I still feel neglected when he games for long stretches. In reality, we started to keep a shared calendar for our plans and activities, therefore, we are often on the same page. Hindsight is a great thing. I'm amazed at how much good came out of what could have been a relationship-ending mistake. It's really been an experience that taught us both lessons about respect, and about talking with each other, and really, how important it is to support the passions of others. We have also learned to appreciate what the other person has an interest in, even if it's not ours. Terry's parents came to visit last weekend, and his mom told me how happy Terry has seemed lately. She says she hasn't seen him this chipper since he was a kid. It just reminded me of how far we've come. My advice would be to heed the situation, of acting like anyone else placed in a similar one, listen to your partner, respect his/her interests, and be ready to compromise. You never know where you will find a new interest that you might share together. And remember, it's okay to have separate hobbies too. The key here is finding a balance that works for both of you. As for Terry and me, we are looking forward to ever more starry nights, gaming sessions, and everything in between. We are bound for an observatory in Arizona next month. Terry is talking about entering some of his astrophotography in a contest. Who knows where this journey will take us next? Thanks so much for all of your help and advice on this, Reddit. This community was a very big help in finding our way out of this mess, and for that I am grateful. Here's to clearing skies and new adventures.